It's time for Q&A in the Kitchen. It's a podcast and YouTube series where tattoo artists and a piercer talk about some of the more common questions that you may have about tattoos and piercings. Brought to you in part by Skin Kitchen Tattoo in the Axiom Body Piercing Studio. The topic today is going to be how to get a cheap tattoo or piercing. Before we get into that, I'll let you know who's on the panel today. It's the same panel, the Do crew is what we decided it would. Is that what we decided?
I don't think we decided on it.
What does that mean?
I don't know.
What does that even mean? Nobody knows what
crew that do.
The crew that do. That was it. Okay. I knew
Sounds like we're sponsored by Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
No, we're gonna jump out of airplanes or something.
I don't drink redneck lemonade.
I'm diabetic, and probably one of the reasons I am is because I drink too much of that. Anyway, over to my right is Jimmy St. James, tattoo artist.
St. John.
Or did I say James?
Mm-hmm.
I did, didn't I?
That's his porn
cool.
name.
Okay.
Different set.
That was a stripper name.
Okay, let's see. And then, well, now we have the name correctly. Tattoo artist at Skin Kitchen. Directly, you know, it's not like I haven't known the guy for 3 or 4 years now. I never say people's last names, though, except on this. Jack Lowe, a tattoo artist and owner of the Skin Kitchen Tattoo.
Nailed it.
I'm DaVo. I own and operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, and I'm a body piercer. And then directly over to my left is Brent Starr, tattoo artist at the Skin Kitchen. So
You never said your last name either.
I never use my last name. It's a respect out of my family. My mom, who's long gone, she's like, you can't please don't put your last name on
Protective
anything.
custody.
So I'm like Prince. It's just one.
You gonna turn yourself into a symbol? Boing.
Well, anything to avoid getting that king money, that royalty money.
That royalty money.
So who wants to start this one out? How do I make my tattoo that I want cheaper or piercing?
Well, it all comes down to how much time is spent.
Yes, it's man hours, isn't it?
Yeah, man hours, because, as far as a tattoo goes, if you want a very simple line drawing, a small line drawing tattoo, that definitely would be not very time consuming.
Yeah.
As compared to, if you wanted to do some shading and coloring in that, and, that's kind of a big factor.
Black and gray cuts it down, because if you do something like if you got a 5-hour black and gray tattoo, it's going to roughly be 10 or more hours colored.
Sure. So,
opting to go to black and gray instead of color would be a little bit cheaper way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably generally true. Of course, you have those standouts that can just bang out beautiful black and gray super fast, or can just slam color and super fast and maybe not do one or the other. But yeah. Anyway, I always kind of thought that depending on the tattoo, I guess, they'd about be the same, but maybe you're right. Anyway, how do you get a cheap one? Well,
how do you get it cheaper?
Why would you?
What
cheaper.
What are you giving up when you come in and go, well, I only have this much to spend. I want to get what I recommend is get the tattoo you want, but you're just going to have to chop it up a little bit, or wait a little longer between your sessions. Yeah.
So if you want a sleeve ultimately, but you can only afford a few hours, well, don't just get something that you really don't want. Get a few hours in on your sleeve. And kind of budget for it, and go talk to the artist. How much can rough estimate. And budget for it, and just do it that way. I mean, get what you want. I mean, they last a while.
Yeah.
So it's a shame to just get what you can afford when most artists I know, are willing to work with you, and, instead of setting for 7 hours a few times, spread it out a little more, only set for 3 or 4 hours, every few weeks, and we'll get to the same spot.
Yeah.
Ultimately, just like anything, it's going to probably ultimately cost a little bit more, just because, there's going to be times where things just get flowing after a few hours, and you can really just make more headway in longer amounts of time per hour.
Yeah.
Am I making,
that does make sense.
Kind of catches
get better
their stride
value.
after
Yeah.
a while.
Yeah, absolutely.
I guess kind of to give it a kind of a maybe something everybody should be able to understand. If you're getting a lion head, and the lion head outline is going to be like the bottom line of the amount of time it's going to take, thus the amount of money. But if you get that with shading, that's a little bit more. If you get that with color, that's a little bit more. If you get it done really, really well with a lot of, what you talked about a while back about how doing that background changes and brings the tattoo more life and
finishes
rhythm,
it off,
etc.
Gives it
That's going to take a little bit longer. It's all and also sitting down and actually drawing it up and drawing up something that's very, very unique is going to cost you a little bit more, even though you guys don't charge for drawing time. It'll kind of translates into how long a tattoo is going to take one way or another. So
it really, it depends on what you want. First of all, if you're wanting something that, like you were saying, is very involved, is going to take extra time. It's very, maybe tight spaces or something that just takes longer, and a technique that maybe isn't used all the time. It's going to take a little extra concentration, say. Then just no fault to you, but the type of tattoo you want, it takes a little longer, or it's going to require a little bit more work, so it's just going to be more expensive, So how could you lessen the cost of that? Well, what makes it tough and going to take longer is this technique right here, because I have to do this and then go do this, and it's just a tougher technique, blah 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 blah. If we did it like this, which would pretty much get you the same thing, man, it'd knock this much off, and so it could be very individual as far as that, but to an extent, just get it smaller.
Yeah,
right.
Do it too, right?
But then you get to a point, depending on the tattoo, that it starts falling apart, or it stops reading right, or depending on what style you're comfortable with it being, it might not lend itself to being very small,
because you're going to lose those details the further you go down. I kind of address it as like getting further and further, because basically what you're it's perspective.
Yeah, you're getting further and further away.
Yeah, and the further away you can't see as much.
Right, and you have to understand too, human skin being a living thing, it allows lines to relax, and they start softening up just a little bit, and you have too much lining too much close together, they kind of start merging together as we grow older, and that can cause loss of definition in the tattoo. So some tattoos are built on that premise that they are high definition, and there's those tiny little details, and they look great for a while, but they do start falling apart, and some people are bothered by that and don't like that, and maybe didn't understand that to start. So I guess what I'm saying is you can go smaller, but listen to the artist, because it's really just how it fits on the body. And if you're adjusting the tattoo to that great extent to fit your pocketbook, just save up.
Yeah, it's not something you really want to sacrifice.
No,
it's going to be on you forever.
Yeah, you're not looking for a blue light special on the tattoo.
It's not like one of those things like, I know you want a Ferrari, bro, but buy this one, fix it up. It's an easy fix, and flip it, and then you can change. It's
get to the Ferrari.
You're owning that shit forever. Not you can't sell it to get to the next one.
Yeah, be patient. Take your time.
Right.
Like Jack said, you can build up on that. Just start out with just get the outline, or just get a small part of the sleeve or whatever it is you want to.
Yeah, you can start the sleeve.
Yeah,
you can start. You're not gonna get it all in a day.
No,
right.
No. So I mean,
because I have to say that a lot of the times when I see you guys reworking old work that someone else has done, or even marginally new work, a lot of it comes down to sharpening up the lines and spending that extra time with the shading and putting in that background and giving the tattoo more life and depth than the guy that you paid $20 for at the back of a tent at some county fair.
Yeah, it's all what what you're willing to wear and how much you're willing to pay for it.
Right.
And that's very individual, I guess. So. Some people are really all about what they paid. They really aren't bothered at all by how bad it looks, because, dude, it was only $60.
Yeah.
Well, if you're willing to wear that and it looked like that and you're happy, well, then who am I to say that was a bad decision? But people...
That's usually what I'll ask when somebody asks me my opinion on their tattoo.
Right.
I always go, do you like it? That's one of the first questions I always ask.
That's the most important thing.
Because my opinion doesn't mean a damn thing to you.
And and the internet's changed a lot of that. Like a lot of things on the internet you put out, you can make anything look really good when it's first done.
Mm-hmm.
Like, remember when the big craze for no outline tattoos came out? The all color, no black outlines, no black in it anywhere. Cool. They look great when they finished them at the convention or wherever they were at, and they took photos. And then, 6 months later, a year later, they got pictures of it. It's like, what was that? You can't hardly
it's kind
tell.
of that watercolor.
Because there's even less than that because it's faded out. There's no black to hold the borders to keep the color in the borders.
It just has lack of contrast.
Together, and it has lack of contrast because there's no dark to make the light. Can't have one without the other. Similar with like the craze for a while was those like portraits the size of your thumb print. You know what I mean? Like this super detailed on your finger micro tattooing portrait. Looks great today and maybe tomorrow and maybe a week or two or a month or two. And then in like a year or two, it's like, what was that? It used to be my uncle, but now it's a thumbprint. You know what I mean? Like,
and if you're willing, to understand that and you're okay with that,
then that's cool.
But you still want to see how it goes because it's fun and that's what you want to do, then there's no harm. But it's all about your expectations. Yeah. Really. And
but 5 years from now, you can't be going, hey, man, what the hell? Like, this was supposed to be my uncle's face. Now it's not. Like, well, it's a micro tattoo. It's not going to stay that way.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's just, the way we are. Sorry.
So that's the way why we have to be clear, when you kind of ask for something like that might be, something that deviates from, what it was 5 years from now. We have to be clear that, it's not going to look like that, after so long, that it's going to sit in the skin and it's going to lose definition and just get that patina.
Yeah.
Yeah, which some people expect and enjoy that kind of aging along with them. And other people will fight, kick and scream if it changes from the day it was done.
Right.
And
they want it to look the way it was when they got it done forever. And just,
And that's, some people have to wash their car every week. Some people haven't washed their car since they owned it. It's just a personal.
Yeah.
And with piercing, the price difference is usually dictated by the quality of the jewelry more than anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you have skill level, and we'll talk about that next, but a lot of it comes down to, for example, if you're buying a gold piece from Invidious, they make great stuff. It looks great, but they do not spend the same amount of time manufacturing it as a Juniper does, where they actually mold it, they take it out, they polish it, and they sculpt actually in these micro-sized little pieces details that you're not going to get with the other one. So thus the price is more. Yeah. So when you get pierced, there's that flat fee and everything else that I charge, but you're going to pay more for that quality. It's kind of the difference between driving a Cadillac, which is a great car. It's going to get you there, and you're going to feel good in it, or a Bentley. Yeah. That's all handcrafted, or a really expensive Italian sports car.
Right.
You're going to pay more because there's more time involved in that process. And
anything handmade is going to cost way more than mass production.
Yes.
It always is.
And that's, they're handcrafted.
Right.
The whole idea of mass production is to keep the cost of making it down, thus for increasing profit. So you're guaranteed that if it's a mass-produced thing, it's not going to be made with the quality that a handmade thing is. Yeah. And that's why it costs more.
Yep.
Well said.
Simple.
Yep. In a nutshell.
Boom.
Now,
handled it.
The other thing would be the amount of experience and expertise and what level that artist is in their career.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
If it's a service, definitely that plays a huge part. That goes into products too, because if you've been making one of those fancy sports cars for 50 years, then both kind of play into each other.
Yeah.
But if you're doing a service, like a tattoo or maybe custom portraits or whatever, then I guess I'll forget what I'm saying in the middle of it.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, you're paying for that experience. I've heard it a couple times. Like, I usually do larger pieces. I've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And
then when I have a day where I do like little filler stuff, like a name or an arrow or whatever, a lot of people come in and they're like, "Wow, it only took you like 12 minutes to do that name." I'm like, "Well, names, number one, were like one of the first things you learn when you're tattooing. And back when we were in school, you still got taught cursive and handwriting and script in like third grade. So, I've known how to write like that since I was a kid before I could
And you've
really do anything.
Done tons of
And
them.
I've done them for 20 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're paying for that experience that took me to make it 10 minutes long instead of the kid that just started yesterday and it takes him an hour to do a name. You know what I mean?
that always seems stupid to me because it's like, okay, it's like when people are like, oh, that was really, really quick. When I do piercings.
Did you want it to take long?
Yeah, I can make it take longer, but longer means more painful.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if it would take you 2.5 hours to do a name, 3 inches long, and just like, and then and just kept that person in pain the whole time, so that they would get their money's worth, is ridiculous.
That's usually what a person would find a benefit, that they could receive the same tattoo, but in half the time or whatever it may be.
Right.
If you can do your job and do it efficiently and get a great result quicker, how is that? How would that be?
That's worth more. Yeah.
Right. I don't
exactly.
get that one.
That's like the handmade cars. Like if you made handmade cars for 50 years, when you first made that first handmade car, it probably took you,
a lot longer.
A week.
A lot longer.
And so let's say you've been doing it 50 years. Well, now it takes you 3 days to do it. Doesn't make the car worth any less. It's still handmade, crafted piece of machinery. You've just gotten
You're
more
paying for the
skilled
expertise.
at it. Yeah, that expertise that you've
gotten
learned.
better at it.
Right.
In general.
What we're saying is either way, you're fucking screwed. All right.
Pretty much.
We are charging you a lot. No.
So here's the thing. If it's kind of a scale, so to speak. Now you could take a chance because there is a risk when you're getting tattooed or pierced by an artist, no matter how well trained they are, who they trained under, when they're initially starting out, because they don't have the experience, especially with dealing with things not going as they planned. They tend to panic and they tend to freeze up and they tend to mess things up worse.
Right.
And they're going to take longer. Every time,
because they're not as sure of themselves.
So their hourly might be cheaper,
but the time's longer.
The other thing is that if you have somebody that's an expert that's been doing it for a long period of time, they're going to be very quick. They're going to be very knowledgeable. They're going to be less likely to make mistakes, and if they do, they're not going to panic and freak out about it, and they're going to correct it because they've learned how to do that.
Yep.
And
thus comes the value.
Yeah. Yep. So it's kind of trying to find that a balancing point, because each have their benefits and disadvantages.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all in what you're looking
expectations.
For.
Yep. Yeah. Some people either they'll go to the haircut in college because it might get messed up a little bit, it might look a little off, but if it's only $15, man,
and it'll grow back
so
its hair.
I'm willing to take the chance and save that money, because even if it is messed up, I still only paid $15. And some people carry that along into tattooing and getting their tattoos, which again, if what they're willing to do and they're happy, why it's not wrong.
No,
there'll always be a market, I think, for quick wham bam cheap tattoos.
Yeah,
there'll always it doesn't necessarily make it wrong. You might not agree with it, but really it's what you get out of the tattoo experience. If you get what you want and you're happy for what you paid, I'd call that a win.
Right.
Yeah. Like I said, do you like it?
Yeah, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks about it. It's yours.
Right. Right.
Though you got to admit, there's a number of times when you have somebody come in for a cover-up or a fix-up on a tattoo, and they're like, I'm sick of my wife or husband or partner or my family giving me crap about this tattoo.
Well, then they're influenced by what other people think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a different issue.
That's an entirely different
That's
discussion.
something that's beyond my pay grade, man.
Yeah. Tattoos aren't something that you should do for someone else.
Very personal.
Absolutely
Same thing with piercings.
If it happens to involve someone else in your tattoo, well, that's another thing. But don't get a tattoo because you want to prove a point to someone or convince somebody of something. If you've got to go through that, you're either apologizing for something because you screwed up and you want to prove to them that no, look, it was just a screw up. Look, I really do. And of course that's going to end up being regretted. But if you, no matter what happens, you want to remember this person because no matter, whatever, they were a great part of your life. Well, then you're not going to regret that. Because it's never going to not be that. And if that's why you got it, then, you're way less likely to regret something like that. So, it's all about why you get tattooed, I think.
We used to have a saying, like, don't get anybody's name tattooed unless they're dead or like a relative, because they're always going to be your relative.
Right.
And dead people can't piss you off. Right. Like, that's just it.
And I think for a lot of us, it just marks a period of time in our lives when that person influenced
Sure.
And some people do that. It's like a rose or a flower or I don't know. Brent does a lot of those.
Mom, Dad, the flower, master,
the flower king,
the florist,
Brent Starr, flower king.
Yeah.
Let's just to go back to this a little bit. The experience. I do think that price makes a difference in the environment that's around the artist, how clean it is, etc. Really comes down to how much you pay for it in most cases. How nice the shop is, how comfortable it is, how comfortable the artists are in that situation, and the amount of space you have.
A really nice custom shop that's beautiful to look at, to be in. The atmosphere is great. The artists are very well trained and experienced. It's gonna the minimum is gonna be a lot higher there than say like a street shop where they hire 50 kids every other week to pump out.
And
tattoos.
some people are willing to pay extra for that, and some people aren't.
Yeah, which is fine.
That's why there's a bunch of different shops, and like I said, there'll be customers for all of them.
Yeah,
because there's different expectations from different people, and those different people are willing to pay for certain things.
Right.
Certain people value the atmosphere and all that a lot more than other people. I don't care. They're assholes there, but man, they're cheap. Okay,
Whatever.
Well, nothing's wrong with that. You're
I've
getting
been
what you
happy.
want for what you paid. What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
I've been happy about one thing that came out of there, but I only paid $20 for this. That makes you happy.
Yeah,
right.
rock on.
It's because you value a tattoo differently. Some people, value certain things like baseball cards to the thousands of dollars. I wouldn't pay nearly that for one. No, I don't value them at all.
I don't value them.
I don't. I'm not interested in the sport or collecting a piece of paper, and I just don't value them. Not to say that they're not worth that to some people, because they value it more. It's no different than a tattoo. We have people from time to time, say that we're expensive. Well, of course we are, for you, because you don't value it to the point to where you'd buy that. Right. I mean, that's why there's different costs for different things. Yeah. And that's why there'll always be clients for both. All skill levels and all types of shops.
That's a great analogy on the baseball card thing.
Right.
Because it kind of puts it in perspective.
Yeah. My dad used to tell me that all the time. I'm like, look at this piece of art. It's worth like $9 million. He's like, no, it's worth $9 million to somebody.
Yeah. Exactly.
It ain't to me.
And I get that a lot because
because
I'm the go-to guy for my, I guess, family and friends for how much is this worth, this blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, it's worth this much if you can find the person that's willing to pay that much.
Yep.
Otherwise, you take it down to the local thrift store, and you're going to get a buck. You're going to get $1.
And what the seller has to decide is, do I want to charge a whole bunch and try to find the few people that will pay that? Or do I want to price it to where most anybody can afford it, thus increasing the amount of people, even though I'm not getting as much, I'm going to make up for that in volume. But that means I got to get these things for cheap so I can sell them for cheap. Yep. And it's all about the expectation of the seller and the buyer. Yep. Some people are willing to go, I don't care if it's a knockoff. I'm really not going to use it that much. I just think it's kind of neat to set on the shelf, so I don't really need the quality. I'll buy the Chinese one, no problem. That's why you have cheap knockoffs that sell, but you still have the companies that go, no, screw all that. We hand make our stuff, and we will stand behind it for the rest of your life. If it fails, we will replace it because ours are awesome, but they are 7 times the cost.
Right.
And some people will see the value in that and go, that's what I want. I want this thing to never break, and it's worth paying that for that peace of mind. So I'm going to buy the quality one. So it's most people try to fall right in the middle. They want to give you the best thing they possibly can and still please as many people as they can. Yeah. And that's like why you see a lot of products start off really good, and then through time they will decrease because they get caught up in that, well, if we use this part in it now, dude, we'd bump our profits up by this much by the end because we're saving that much. And they get suckered into that, let's get more money, so we have to drop our quality to drop our bottom line so we can pay, make more people. Yeah. So and really nothing. No tattoos are no different. You've got those people that go, man, I'm just going to bust this out. I'm going to do it for cheap because that gets my chair open quicker and I can get another one in the chair. Now that's not to say an efficient artist or somebody who's considered to do quick work is not good. There are people that can, and there are certain types of things I can, and probably everybody can. But it's all about what you want and what that value is. Hey, I value the speed more than I really value the outcome. It's going to cover that much of my arm, and I want a sleeve as long as it's covered. And the faster it's covered, cool. It's cheaper. Fine.
That's the way it goes.
But just know that you are that's
What
you get what you
you're gonna
get.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to feed everybody, and everybody's got a little different expectation.
And I like with piercing, what it's going to do is just going to cut like the famous $25 piercings, that were around. Thank God they're not really a big deal anymore. But the reason why those existed was A, the person who was doing them generally wasn't trained very well. B, the jewelry was the lowest, cheapest, mass-produced crap you could find. And it was all about getting them in and out as quickly as possible. So you didn't take time to explain to people things like, yeah, if you get this navel piercing, I wouldn't suggest swimming for 6 months because that might impede or slow down the process. So it's come in, sit down, here's a little card on how to take care of it.
See you later.
See ya, pay the person on the way out.
And good luck getting a hold of me if there's a problem.
Yeah, if there's a problem or you need jewelry changed or whatever, I may or may not be there. In fact, I'll probably be busy tattooing somebody because that was generally what would happen, and they would do both.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of it comes down to it just comes down to time, people, and the experience you want to have. I always try to hit that middle ground with jewelry, especially where your average person, even a teenager who's got like a part-time job, can afford at least the entry level. But I also have the stuff in stock that the person that
high-end people
makes six figures is going to go, oh, that's nothing. $200 for an upper ear cartilage, nothing.
Yep.
Yeah.
So everybody's satisfied.
Right.
Yeah. Do I stock a lot more of the base stuff? Oh, yes, because I sell a lot more of it.
Because that's that middle ground that people are usually happy with.
Yeah.
I know that's better, but for me, I don't see the value in going that far when this looks nice and it's still guaranteed not to hurt me.
Right.
Yeah.
So that seems like the sensible thing to do.
Yeah.
But you have those people, that have a lot of those dollars. So spending this many of them is not a big deal. I got a bunch more of them. So each one of them has less value. So they buy the best because to them that's cheap.
And that's where the old saying goes. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It's never enough.
Right.
Yeah,
Because
exactly
your
that.
pace and your costs and everything goes up.
Absolutely. Yeah, you live. Yeah.
Now
No money, no problem.
Now, where the cheap tattoo and piercing gets dangerous is when they start cutting back on the safety of their clients.
Exactly.
And it's not as much with tattooing now.
Right.
Because everything's kind of pre-made.
Pre-sterilized.
I think it's the price is all pretty much set, right?
Price how?
Your equipment.
Well, you can still buy the cheaper needles and cartridges.
Oh, yeah,
there's a lot of difference on them.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you could buy
Quality.
instead of
We could definitely buy cheaper needles. If that's
look
what
how
you're
much
getting
money
at.
you'd save if you guys just used floor cleaner instead of green soap.
Yeah.
If you didn't disinfect your counters.
Miticide's expensive, so I buy bleach. Not the same
exactly.
thing, man.
And with piercing, a lot of it comes down to properly sterilizing, and that's an expensive process.
Yeah.
Maintaining an autoclave is an expensive process.
Absolutely.
Also, and they're not a cheap investment right off the bat. And with you guys, machines are not a cheap investment right off the bat.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's like the cheaper they've gotten to manufacture and the more
expensive.
stamped out they are, the more the price goes up. Back in the day, we could buy literally a handmade, sculpted, everything about it,
One-off
handmade.
Work of art.
Yeah.
A work of art, or a one-off work of art for a few $100s, at the high end. Now you can't even begin to think about getting a quality machine for that at all. I have more than one machine that's over $1,000.
Yeah, they used to be so cheap you threw them away.
And it only seems expensive. Yeah, that's a whole other thing. And it only seems expensive because of to think about what we were getting for that price and now what we're paying. It's not that it's not a great value still because I earn my living with it.
Yeah.
But they know that.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you think part of the reason is because the rotary machines last longer than the old coil ones?
They don't. They don't necessarily.
Do they have more durability?
No.
That's just a question.
Yeah.
They're more precise and they run better, but they're not long lasting.
I've spent a lot of money on certain machines, and they've burned out in a year or maybe two, or I started to have issues with them. But that's kind of the thing with them, that the trade off is that they run exactly the same until they don't.
It's kind of like newer cars. They're a lot harder to work on than the old ones.
But they're more reliable because but when they break, they break.
Yeah.
So that's kind of Well, that's good because before with coil machines, depending on the weather, depending on how hot or cold the shop was,
the phase of the moon,
how you sat it down, on the table last time, it's going to run different.
Yep.
You know, how you bent your needle, how you know all the friction points, how you snapped a rubber band against the bar.
Yep.
Well, all that is done. And all you do is stick a cartridge into a pin-style machine and tattoo really comfortably and way easier with no adjustments, no springs, no screws to get jimmied around. And when they don't run, they don't run.
Right.
You don't have to sit there and fiddle and hope and go,
no
well, is that what I liked or no?
you got
And
the soldering iron.
so you make that trade-off of, okay, yeah, it's 5 times the cost, but it's probably going to run a few years. And I'm never going to have to fiddle with it.
Right. The new machines are like Teslas.
More reliable.
And the old machines are like, you know, your classic hot rods, your
exactly
20 T bucket, your 57 Chevys, your, you know,
the first thing that's going to, well, maybe not the first, but one of the first things that's going to fail is the battery power. The battery will go bad.
Well, but that's the thing. There's only one thing to fail, and that's the motor.
Right.
That's it. Unless, you know, the adjusting, you know, something like that physically breaks on the outside. All it is a usually very inexpensive rotary motor, and there's a stick glued to it that goes up and down, and it's in a fancy looking cylinder.
And with the batteries and stuff now, you have a lot more constant tattooing.
Yeah.
Your machine's running more constant and steady and true.
And
with the coils and stuff, you're running off a power pack that's plugged into the wall. Okay, well, now I got 9 guys plugged into the wall using this for their stereo and their other tattoo machines. And you know, the wavelength of electricity is varying, and it's going.
Not to mention you're tethered down.
And part of it's going is the conversion from AC to DC from
your capacitors level of work inside the machine and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So they're just
it's science, kids.
Trouble free.
It really is.
You know, trouble free until they're not. But then you just fix it or buy another one.
I've still got my hot rods, but I prefer to every day to drive my Tesla.
And there's some people that they call them loyal to the coil.
I was for years.
Which is great. I was for a while. I didn't switch over right away either.
I switched over 3 years ago.
I got the impression after a while that those are just the people that like loud things.
Well, they're the hot rodders. They're the hot rodders. They like to tweak and turn and tune on their machines.
They're the guys that still ride pinheads, and they have to work on them every time they ride them because there's value in that.
Right.
As opposed to the guy who has the brand new model every single year and he never has to fuck with it at all. Hits the start button and that's it.
But there's a lot of there's a lot to that. Like we all when a dude rides by on the panhead, even the guys on the new bike goes, man, that's cool.
But I don't value all that tinker time that I have to do because I don't have time for it. Maybe I'd love to do it, but I just don't have time for it.
I'd rather be riding.
Time.
Yeah,
always time.
Always time.
And it's the value that you put on it.
Somebody out there, if you can figure out how to make more time, you're going to be rich beyond your wildest dreams.
That's why they won't share it with us.
Nobody will make more of it.
They know how. They just won't share it with us.
You can make more land.
It's a big conspiracy.
Food, no more time.
Yeah.
So I guess kind of the point I was making is like when you can go as cheap as you want and as expensive as you want.
Yeah.
But there is a point when you get too far down into that cheap end where it could be a dangerous
and realize why it's cheap.
Like your buddy just bought a kid off of Amazon and you're a little inebriated
and he's tattooing his kitchen.
Yeah. That might not be a safe environment for you to get tattooed in. Or the same thing goes down to
piercing.
You know, you're a minor and your parents are kind of not okay with it, but you don't have a lot of money, and that's the real reason why your parents aren't into it. So your friend orders a needle off of Amazon and the cheapest piece of jewelry possible because it comes as a kit. And then pierces you in, the girls' bathroom at high school.
My javelin comes in next week. If you stand halfway down the yard, I can pierce you with this.
So there is, part of the cost of getting tattooed, part of the cost of getting pierced is the artist keeping themselves safe and you safe.
And you safe, absolutely.
Yep, and how much you value those things.
Your body, your health, your life, etc.
Yeah. If you like $20 more than you like
if catching hepatitis
security
is okay
of knowing
for something, then knock it out, man.
that you're not going to get sick,
it's
then
like, you find out you have an allergic reaction to something that you never knew you had an allergic reaction to, and you're having it, and it'd be like the EMT coming up and going, like 2 of them coming up. One guy comes up in like a broken Pinto, and the other guy comes up in like a fully equipped brand new Ford ambulance.
Yeah.
And each of them walk up there, and one's got like a brand new sterile, you can tell it's completely clean EpiPen. and the other guy's sitting there holding, you know,
I've used it a couple times, so let me wipe it
Make
off.
it a
It's all
Sharpie.
right.
A used
a
Sharpie.
Sharpie with like a needle sticking out of it, and
It's worked before.
some kind of substance that's in a jar that has a screw top, you know, like a mason jar.
Reusable.
How do you know you're not allergic
One
to that?
costs
Well, we don't.
20,
We're
one
sticking with
costs
it.
$200. Which one are you gonna pick?
Well,
Yeah.
well, did the one with the EpiPen come out of the Pinto? Because that matters.
That would be fun.
No.
Then you'd have to wonder where he got the EpiPen.
We saved his money on the ambulance and bought the good equipment.
Think about what you value about your tattoo and what you are willing to have your tattoo look like, and you're going to be charged
And your health.
accordingly.
Yeah.
Really.
My dad used to love to brag how little he paid for his crappy tattoo.
Yeah, and that was more important
That
than
was, yeah.
other things. So
And as like I remember having the conversation, I'm like, is it really just because you got such a good deal? Because that thing looks awful. And he was like, it's not really that; it's the experience.
The
And I'm
hepatitis was free.
okay. Well, it was
I know, I'm
1950
just kidding.
something. It was actually a Sailor Jerry tattoo, and he couldn't figure out whose name. The heart with a dagger through it, and he couldn't figure out whose name to put on it, so he put his own name on it right before he shipped out.
Stay true. You always like yourself.
yeah, that's
And by the time we came around, which was probably 10, 15 years later, it looked like a dancing girl. It had
Wow.
just totally blown out.
I got to learn how to do
Bonus.
that.
Yeah,
Right,
it
how do
was
you morph
awful.
into
Two for
It
one?
was just like
Awesome.
this line that could have been. I remember sitting there during church, and when I'd get bored, I would stare at it and try to figure out exactly what it was because he wouldn't tell us.
It was like one of those pictures, like in the late 90s or early 90s,
Yeah.
where you'd stare at it long enough and it
And
would.
you'd see
the
a
magic
unicorn
pictures.
or some shit. Yeah.
Man, that is value. That is
Yeah, buddy.
great value.
it's a new level of
Where did that lion
abstract.
used to be? Well, it used to be a naked chick, but now she's a lion.
Well, sometimes that happens on stomach tattoos.
That's
Yeah, you
true.
get a dolphin, it turns into a whale.
You have a lion that turns into, I don't know, like
A squid.
Ox.
a squid,
The jellyfish.
a jellyfish.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's probably pretty close.
a starfish with a smile.
Yeah. It was a goldfish when I was 20. Now it's,
A
the
bubble.
night sky.
The night sky with
With
lightning.
with a giant thing sticking through it, like
It's lightning.
a crack in the earth.
That's the stretch mark lightning.
Yes,
Yeah, for whatever reason.
and we all
They always
say
wanna
that with
cover
our
that up.
middle-aged bellies. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's
much
not
further.
like
It's
it's
not
not
like
like we
it
don't think this only happens to other people because this happened to us.
Yeah, it's the fried butter at the fair. I'm blaming that.
So I just guess
good.
basically it comes down to a lot of times you just gotta just go with what you want, spend the money, invest the money in something that's practical and something that you need.
It's an
or
investment in
want.
yourself.
Yeah, spend some me money,
And have some realistic expectations.
Absolutely.
with what
basically,
you're getting.
and think about all the money you blow on stupid things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is how much you want it and how excited you are for it, how bad you want it.
Right.
Some people want things so bad they're willing to pay twice what they're worth just because they have to have it right now, knowing that later it's going to be cheaper.
Yep.
They
Yeah.
stand in lines. And other
Yes.
people are
And
like,
some people do not.
man, I can wait.
I'm one of those people. I'm not going to wait till it goes on.
I'll see at the end of the
Right.
month when the new one comes out, and I'll get the old one that's still new, but,
Yeah,
But
yeah.
have
And
the
see,
bugs.
what
So-
I've learned is if I don't really want that thing, then I'll go, it'll be $100 cheaper in 6
Right.
months.
How bad
Yeah.
you wanted
Just wait
it.
on it.
So, you value it greatly and it's very important. It doesn't matter what it takes. You're going to bring your tent and you're
Yeah.
going to wait. And even if it rains, you're in, man.
I'm gonna have
And
that thing at midnight
Other
when it
people will
drops.
just pay you 3 times what you paid for it off of you and not go through it and pay more.
Yeah.
It all comes down to what you
yeah.
value.
Yep. Then
But
the guys
just-
wait till it's used and they get it cheap.
And the thing about it is, I always put extra value on things that I use every day. I remember the first time I bought like a really nice smartphone. I'm just like, I can't believe I'm spending more than $200 on a phone.
Oh, I wish.
And
Yeah,
this is a long time ago.
Right.
It was like probably my first BlackBerry.
It was right after the first rotary dial.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
BlackBerry.
And then I started thinking about it. It's like, well, this is something I'm going to use every single day, multiple times a day. I just spent,
Everything.
$20 on a dinner that I'm going to poop out in a couple hours.
If you're
Yeah.
lucky.
If
If I'm lucky, because
age.
age
Yeah.
and
It catches you.
cheese wasn't really good for you.
It's not getting nicer in there.
Let's how many old people know what
Chi-Chi's.
Yeah.
Garcia's.
There's a war in there.
And with a tattoo or a piercing, it is something that you can have for the rest of your life. It is going to be with you. You're going to use it. It's going to be a part of you. It's
is
something
you.
It is you.
It's going to represent you.
It can't be pawned. It can't be lost. It can't be stole.
Yeah.
It can't be left behind.
Yeah, there really is nothing like it. And fortunately for people like us, a lot of people see value in that.
Right.
So they're willing to pay us for the time that it takes for us to do that.
And we thank you.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
I just wish I was making enough for the big giant limousines and the big bottles of whiskey and underage girls.
Yeah.
Well, not underage. Young
You're not
girls.
that famous.
Yeah, you ain't got that kind of money, honey.
Yet.
Well, you got to start.
Okay, DaVo Clinton.
Oh. Yeah, we better wrap this up.
Underage
Hollywood
girls. I
Davo.
guess I used to make that joke on other people. So maybe that's why, I don't know. It's been a long life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It only gets longer from here.
Yeah, it's Davo. How life's going? He says taking forever.
Yeah. And I plan on living forever or dying trying.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Give
that's
it the
fair.
best shot.
So you think we covered pretty much everything we can cover on that
Like a
one?
blanket.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
like a blanket.
Like a wet
Like a
blanket,
blanket.
as you're dumping water on the blanket as it's on their face.
Now
That's
we're going
called
waterboarding.
waterboarding.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, label it if you want to.
Look, man, we
It's-
take one
It's all about
vacation
the
to Cuba.
information you get.
to
You
some
get one-
people, it's
one vacation
Thanksgiving.
to Cuba,
okay?
and now that's everything. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't care what anybody says. If you're pouring water and I felt like I was drowning, I'd tell you anything. And I'd
Awesome.
probably
That's
make up.
kind of
I'm
what
not
I-
forgetting
and it would
that.
be whatever you wanted to know. It wouldn't be the truth.
That was the point.
I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, it works, and people wanted us to
Ta-da.
stop.
Why?
Ridiculous.
I got the answer I
Throw
needed.
some electricity in
I
there.
think
Result.
Jess feels like she's being waterboarded right now.
That could be arranged.
That
I'm
could,
sure.
yeah. Well, we got the.
We take volunteers.
We got to do it now while it's still America. You
and
know.
I'm sure there's a how-to video somewhere. Anyway,
Okay, wrap it up, David, quick.
If you like this, found this entertaining, found this enjoyable, got something out of it, give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you liked it. Subscribe, because we put these out on a regular basis,
Usually.
right wherever you're listening to this or watching it. If you'd like, check out our merch store. Cool merch, some fun stuff, and eventually I'll get new stuff up there. It's been a while. Till next time, here's hoping all your tattoos and piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, we would all love to see you for your tattooing and body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you guys. Be good.